All right, it's a Tuesday morning on this November 4th. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. The NFL trade deadline a few hours away. So coming up on today's show, will the Eagles make another move? And Philadelphia had one of the best bye weeks that you can have. Philadelphia getting some really great news going into the deadline today. All that and more coming up here on today's program. But first, don't forget to subscribe and join us for daily and year-round coverage of the Eagles, but also myself, producer Chip. We're going to be live for the NFL trade deadline today. It is at 4 p.m. Eastern, so we're going live 3 hours before the buzzer sounds at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is also why you hit that notification bell and you hit all. Therefore, anytime we push out a show, but also anytime we go live, you will get that push notification so that you can stay in the know and you can hang out here with us on the show. So let's begin here, and really this sets the foundation for everything that we're talking about here on the show today. The Eagles literally may have had the best bye week in the history of the National Football League. I'm not kidding. That's not a hyperbolic statement. They didn't play, but they still got a bunch of wins when they had their off week going into a huge game against the Green Bay Packers in Week 10 at Lambeau Field. First of all, Howie Roseman made 3 trades to make this team better. And I think it's pretty notable how Howie has talked about this, whether it's a top 5 player on the roster, whether it's the 53rd guy, he will make a move if he believes it makes the team better. Whether it's for a star player, whether it's a depth piece, Howie Roseman is always looking to bulk up the roster in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie deserves a lot of credit for giving Howie full say and a leeway to make these moves. Can you imagine if Jeffrey Lurie was the one making the moves for Philadelphia like Jerry Jones does for the Cowboys? That would be awful. But there is a really good level of synchronization with this Eagles organization from top to bottom. Jeffrey Lurie to Howie Roseman to Nick Sirianni to the players who police the locker room. And so Howie made 3 trades within the span of a week going into the deadline. Traded for Michael Carter, traded for Jair Alexander, traded for Jaelan Phillips. What these trades do for the Birds, you needed slot corner depth at the very least. Behind Cooper DeJean, if you were to go down, knock on wood, hope that doesn't happen, you didn't really have anybody who could play slot behind DeJean. It's a very important position in Vic Fangio's defense, especially against the run. So now you get that. It also gives you optionality, shout out to Sam Hinkie, and versatility, right? If DeJean needs to play on the outside, he can. Then you put Michael Carter in the slot. If you want to keep DeJean on the inside, which I prefer because it allows him to be versatile and impact the game in a plethora of ways, you can do that, and you have a depth piece. I also think this is an underrated talking point here. I think that Michael Carter or Cooper DeJean, given their physicality, how well they run, their ability to tackle in open space, they could potentially play some safety for this team. And so that's something that Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio might have been thinking when they traded for Michael Carter. For Jair Alexander, I don't think he's the player who he once was. Only played a couple of games for Baltimore this year, but that defense was horrid. When he did play, he didn't play well. But this is a veteran corner who's a former second-team All-Pro twice in his career. The spot with where the knee is at, probably not great, and that's probably why he's on the back end of his career. But he was coached by Christian Parker, Eagles defensive backs coach, back in Green Bay. And the Eagles love familiarity. They like bringing in players who they have that synergy with. And then for Jaelan Phillips, this is an edge rusher at 26 years old who's a physical freak who can play edge, he can play defensive tackle, he can win from both spots, and he has a bunch of potential, and he has thrived under Vic Fangio. And obviously that's the most recent move that Howie has been able to make. So let's dive a little bit deeper into that Jaelan Phillips trade. This is why I think Howie made the move. Improves your defense. Eagles needed a pass rusher. Your edge rusher rotation is now set. Back in 2023, before that Achilles tear, 6.5 sacks in 8 games under Fangio. He was on his way to having a career year because he knows the scheme, despite him being a midseason pickup. I think that he can play right from the jump. I like the positional versatility, him playing inside, outside. He's able to use his athleticism to his advantage. He's really starting to come on post-injury. You gave up a third, but if he walks after the year, you get a third-round comp pick back. How you win? We saw it against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl when the Eagles sacked him 6 times. and they had 16 pressures. They didn't blitz once. You pass rush and you hunt the quarterback. And given his age, given the athlete, given the track record, given the fact that he is a scheme fit, he fits the profile of an extension candidate for Howie. This year in 2025, 3 sacks, 27 pressures, 7 quarterback hits, and a pass rush grade of 80.4. And 3 of those sacks have come in the last 5 games coming off the ACL tear. So he tore his Achilles 2023, tore his ACL 2024. Since week 3, that's a pretty long sample size. I mean, we're going into week 10 here, 3rd highest pressure rate in the NFL. He has 10 pressures in his last 2 games, an 18.6% pressure rate that ranks 8th in the National Football League. So post-injury, he's really starting to play well. And these figures now are the highest numbers on this Eagles defensive line with their pass rush. 19.3% pass rush win rate, number 1 on the Birds. 18.1% pressure percentage. That's also atop all Eagles defenders. And Howie Roseman, he has a trade fetish. He's insane. He's a psycho, but I absolutely love it. He has made 9 trades since the start of training camp. Traded for John Mechie, Jacorian Bennett, Sam Howell. Traded Darian Kennard to the Packers. Traded for Fred Johnson. And then traded for Tank Bigsby, Michael Carter, Jair Alexander, and Jaelan Phillips. These latter 4 trades have all happened during the regular season. Now, of course, the big question looking ahead to 4 p.m. Eastern here today, will Howie make another move? Positions to watch: offensive line along the interior, tight end, and safety. Those are the remaining needs for the Eagles. Some people might say wide receiver. I disagree. Jahan Dotson's an underrated player, and the Eagles like Darius Cooper. That's why they traded away John Mechie. So these are my 4 top trade targets remaining for the Birds. Jackson Powers-Johnson, I think he's an elite center, but obviously if the Eagles traded for him, he'd play guard. He just hates it with the Las Vegas Raiders. I would too. They're a dumpster fire organization, and they're a joke, and he's been unhappy for a long time. Chip Kelly is misusing him. Under Jeff Stoutland, he could be a star. Michael Mayer could be a backup tight end who can block and catch passes. I think that he has a bunch of potential. And if the Eagles did want to move on from Dallas Goedert after the year and get younger with a more durable player, Michael Mayer would be under team control. David Njoku, a freak tight end at the tight end spot who's very athletic, I should say. And then Micah Fitzpatrick. Let's talk more about him. What if Howie Roseman just said F it? While he has the Dolphins on the line on his recent call log, he trades up the Dolphins once again, and he says, what does it cost to trade for Micah Fitzpatrick, who's a multi-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro, a ball-hawking safety on that back end? I know that Andrew Makuba has done some nice things, but you've clearly gone all in on trying to win a Super Bowl right now. Why not go all in and trade for a player like that who would turn a question mark into a strength? He's not the player who he once was. That is for sure. He might cost a 2nd or a 3rd round pick, but you still got a couple of 3rds in the back pocket. That would be a crazy trade. Will Howie make another move? T for trade, P for pass. Let me know down in the comment section right now and share your thoughts with me. You think we're going anywhere? You think we're done? On this Tuesday AM, we're still bringing the heat. The good news doesn't stop. We're going to continue to talk about a crazy and successful bye week for the Birds. Without them playing a game, they racked up a bunch of dubs. But let's get to our sponsor, our friends at Bubs Naturals. If you've been watching the show for a long time, you know I take my health seriously. You know I train a lot, training for a High Rocks competition that's coming up in about 3 weeks here in Dallas, Texas. And Bubs Naturals Collagen Peptides, it's a supplement that is very valuable to me on a daily basis. And you should try it for yourself. Get 20% off using the code CHAT. And with collagen, it's important for a variety of reasons, right? Sometimes getting older can hit you harder than expected. Stiff joints in the morning, recovery from the gym taking a little bit longer. Maybe your hair is thinning, your nails are breaking. Aging sucks, but look, it doesn't have to. Starting in your mid-20s, your collagen production starts to naturally decline in your body, and that's where Bubs Naturals Collagen Peptides comes in. It helps restore collagen levels to what your body naturally had in its youth, so your joints feel stronger, your hair and nails grow healthier, and your skin looks smoother. Collagen is the most abundant protein, and it's often referred to as the glue that holds our bodies together. Per serving with Bubs Naturals collagen peptides. It has 18 grams of protein per serving. That's incredible. Since using it, I've noticed less joint pain, my hair and skin a lot healthier. I'm bouncing back faster after workouts and playing some sports. What I also love, clean ingredients. No junk, zero sugar, sweeteners, or fillers, third-party tested, sustainably sourced, mixes seamlessly. This was voted 2024's best collagen by health.com. Live better longer. For a limited time, our listeners get 20% off at Bubs Naturals by using our code CHAT at checkout. Just head to bubsnaturals.com, use our code CHAT, and you're all set. After you make your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Tell them that Chase Senior, Eagles Now, and Chat Sports sent you. We'll put that link down below in the comment section attached to the pinned comment. 2,000 5-star reviews. Are you kidding me? All right, let's move forward here on the show. Talking about this highly successful bye week for the Eagles here in the 2025 season. About to embark on week 10. Obviously, the regular season now, 18 weeks. And you think about everything that transpired across the National Football League this week, namely inside the NFC, that's been highly beneficial to the Eagles right now, but also looking ahead into the future. And you think about what transpired around the NFC in week 9, right? The Eagles got a lot of help. What a wild, wacky, and weird game it was at Lambeau Field between the Carolina Panthers and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers outplayed the Panthers, but the Panthers found a lot of success on the run, on the ground. Jordan Love threw one bad pick, nearly threw another, and the Panthers defense played awesome. An issue with the Packers right now, they lack an offensive identity. They don't know who they are going into week 10. And so the Panthers stunned the Packers with a last-second field goal, 16-13, and that handed the Packers a huge L for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then at home, a Detroit Lions team that's been on fire of late, really been playing well since that week 1 loss against Green Bay when they got throttled. They did have that loss against Kansas City, but the Chiefs were in a desperate spot. But the Lions have been hot. They fall to J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings 27-24 at home. The Vikings and Kevin O'Connell didn't want to play J.J. McCarthy because they didn't have trust in him. They instead opted for Carson Wentz. But J.J. McCarthy played well. Vikings defense probably had their best all-around defensive game of the season. And the Vikings win by 3 in a big NFC North game. And so with the Packers losing and the Lions losing, the Philadelphia Eagles have risen up to the number 1 seed in the NFC. And really, they control their destiny from here on out. Next 2 games, against Green Bay, against Detroit. You win both those games to move to 8-2. That means that you have the tiebreakers over Green Bay, tiebreaker over Detroit. You have the tiebreaker over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You have the tiebreaker over the Los Angeles Rams. You by far have the better NFC record than Seattle. And if home field advantage goes through Lincoln Financial Field and the Eagles can get that number 1 seed in a loaded and deep NFC, you have to love where Philadelphia is. Then you look inside the NFC East. The Giants lost to Mac Jones and the Niners, 34-24. I don't think the score was really that even that close. The Seattle Seahawks absolutely steamrolled the Washington Commanders in primetime on Sunday Night Football, 38-14. I was watching that game in the first half when Sam Darnold threw for 4 touchdowns in the first 2 quarters. It gave me flashbacks to Michael Vick going up against Washington with Philadelphia when they blew the doors off of Washington in that first half under Andy Reid in primetime with Mike Tirico and John Gruden on the call. And then on Monday Night Football, how about them Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys, they get annihilated and crushed by the Arizona Cardinals 27-17. They turned it over countless times. They had 4 fumbles as a team. Dak Prescott picked off late, which sealed the game. Jacoby Brissett is a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. Josh Sweat, no stranger to going up against the Dallas Cowboys. He was sacking Dak Prescott all night, and so the Cowboys lost as well. So in a bye week where the Eagles didn't play, they get help in the NFC, and every other team inside the NFC East falls on the sword and they lose. And so you look at this division right now. The Eagles are 6-2. There hasn't been a repeat winner inside the NFC East since 2004. Philadelphia 6-2, a 3-game lead over the Dallas Cowboys in the win and loss column. If one of these teams doesn't get to 7 wins, the Eagles could clinch this division here soon. Commanders 3-6. And of course, I have to mention Jaden Daniels, dislocated elbow. He's going to be out for a while. He's already dealt with hamstring and knee injuries this year. That's his 3rd injury. If you had a concern about Jaden Daniels for his NFL career, he's built like a pogo stick. He's very thin. Now, I hope that he's well. I hope that he can recover very quickly. I want to see him come back on the field and be the player that he's capable of being. But this season has ended up being a disaster for Washington. And I previewed this prior to the year. This is why you subscribe to the channel. I had told you they won a bunch of fluky games last year. They had the oldest roster in the NFL. And usually those things, they don't carry over year to year. And now Washington 3-6. It looks as though their season is over. Giants cooked 2-7. I think the Eagles ended their season 2 weeks ago, pushing them to 2-6. Another bonus for this Eagles bye week. They are getting healthier during the bye week. Another week to rest for the likes of A.J. Brown and Cam Jurgens and Nolan Smith and Jacorian Bennett, Brandon Graham coming out of retirement. You make those 3 trades. You get reinforcements. You become deeper on defense. We'll see if Howie makes another move. And now the Green Bay Packers await on Monday Night Football. Classic trap game spot for Green Bay. They looked past the Carolina Panthers to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they suffered a loss, which can end up being a huge one, which can determine and could determine seeding inside the NFC. A bunch of Packers fans have been talking a lot of shit. I've seen a lot of noise from Packers fans all offseason and this year. It's time for the Eagles to go into Lambeau, where the Jalen Hurts era really started back in 2020. The real ones know. And it's time to just slap them like Will Smith did Chris Rock. And we'll celebrate that here on the show for sure. We'll be doing a watch party for that game. If you enjoyed today's show, plus they tried to ban the tush push. Frauds! If you enjoyed today's show, give me a real one. We'll see you live in a couple of hours for the trade deadline. Can't wait.